My dear brothers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, pray and gives donation, the zakat, and go to ruku' and sujood with those that goes to ruku' and sujood. What does that mean? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeat the same thing in the Quran? Was that something just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to repeat? Or that it means something? It tells us something. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeated the same thing in a different way of saying it. So that tells us the importance of Salat al-jama'ah, to pray with the Muslims. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in another surah, وَيَوْمَ يُكْشَفُ عَنْ سَاقٍ وَيُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ فَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ. The day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows his leg and tells the people to do sujood and ruku', they cannot do sujood or ruku' with the people. Why he says with the people? It brings the plural. It means that those peoples that they do not pray jama'ah in this life, they did not get used to it, to pray in the jama'ah with these people, they will not be able to do so in the life after. So that's why it is important that we must pray in the jama'ah. It is a sign to show how great your iman it is, how powerful your iman it is. And also that the people should know that you are Muslim. How could I know? How would I know if you are Muslim? I know people in our town, if they die, I will not pray on them, because I don't know if he's Muslim or not, even if he's Kurdish. He doesn't come to Salat. And unfortunately, some brothers, they come only Jum'ah. Some brothers only Eid. And that's a big mistake. You cannot be Muslim only come Jum'ah time. You have to try at most best and pray as much as possible in the mosques. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says in the hadith that this hadith was narrated by many different ways, and there are different stories, but they all goes back to the same meaning and same saying. And that is someone blind came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and said to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, I don't have anyone to bring me to the mosque. Give me the permission so that I pray at home. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, he allowed him. He says, okay, pray at home. Pray at home, that's fine. And then after a little bit, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says to him, do you hear adhan? He said, yes. Then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, no, you must answer the salat and come to the mosque. And that's why the scholars, they say that for those around the mosque and they hear the adhan, it's duty, they must come. They cannot say, I pray at home. They must come if they hear the adhan. And if for those that they are far, is different opinion on the scholars as well. But they all agree it is something that Muslim must do at least a couple of times a day. I don't say a couple of times a month, because we Muslims pray 5 times a day. At least a couple of times a day you must come to the masjid and pray, not only Jumu'ah time. In another hadith that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, that in a long hadith that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لَقَدْ هَمَمْتُ أَنْ آمُرَ بِحَطَبٍ فيحتطب ثم آمر بصلاة فيؤذن لها ثم آمر برجل فيؤم الناس ثم أخالف إلى رجال فأحرق عليهم بيوتهم والذي نفسي بيده لو يعلم أحدهم أنه يجري عرقا سمينا أو مرقاتين حسنتين لشهد العشاء. That the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, it comes to my feeling and my heart, I want to do something. And what is that? That I order someone to give adhan and do iqamah, and I'll tell someone else to do what? To be the imam and lead the salat. And me myself, I go road to road, street by street of the Medina, and see whomever is not in the Salat al-jama'ah and he's at his home, put the fire on the house, means burn down the house. He says this to who? Did he say it to me and you? Huh? No, he says that to the Sahaba. Imagine he says that to the Sahaba. What about us? What he would do to us? If he would do that to the Sahaba, what about us? He would have done a worse to us, isn't it? So that's why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ tells us and translating the ayats that I mentioned. What is the benefit of me doing all hifz of Quran and I do not understand? I didn't understand what warka'u ma'al raki'in means. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said salat and warka'u ma'al raki'in? So that's why it is important to do hifz, but with that it is important to do understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah. In the another hadith, in the same shape of this, the same hadith, little bit in another narration of Imam Ahmad, that he says, لولا ما في البيوت من النساء والذرية, means if it wouldn't be in the houses, children's and the females, I would have burned the house. I would have burned the house on the top of those people that they do not come to jama'ah. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is telling us how important it is for us to come to the jama'ah. How important it is to come to jama'ah. In the another hadith that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, al-jafa'u kullu jafa' wal-kufru wal-nifaqu min sami' al-nida', means it is indeed from disbelieving and from hypocritism, a hypocrite, and it is from less iman that someone hears adhan and he does not reply to it. He hears someone says come to the success and he does not reply to it. Hayya al-falah, come to the success, but he doesn't come. Come to the happiness, but he doesn't come. Indeed, that is from nifaq, hypocrite. That person has the sign of being hypocrite because he heard somebody says come to the success, but he didn't want to success. That shows how hypocrite this person is. Mujahid, he is one of the great students of Ibn Abbas. He is one of the great students of Ibn Abbas. And he asked Ibn Abbas, he says somebody asked about the person that he says, عن رجل يصوم النهار ويقوم الليل لا يشهد الجمعة ولا الجماعة فقال هو في النار. They asked Ibn Abbas that a person, he prays nighttime and he fasts daytime, but he does not come to Jum'ah and Jama'ah. He doesn't come to the Friday, he doesn't come to any Jama'ah, the 5 daily prayer, he doesn't do any of those. He just fasts and prays and he does everything else. And Ibn Abbas says, فَقَالَ هُوَ فِي النَّارِ, indeed he is in the hellfire. He is in the hellfire. And Ibn Abbas saying this, it is not from his own self. As we say, it's from ghaybiyat, it's from unseen. Because it is from the unseen, because it's from unknowing, it means that he heard something from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That's why he said that. If not, he wouldn't have said such thing like that. And especially, my dear brothers, that I have to mention that it is important to know, and it is important for us to realize and understand how we do da'wah. We cannot do da'wah when with someone, if he doesn't come to the Salat al-jama'ah, be harsh with him, be bad with him, say bad word to him, be rush with him. No, you have to be gentle, you have to be nice with him, you have to be kind with him. We have to remind him those ahadith and those ayats so that he comes to the Salat al-jama'ah and Jum'ah. Because maybe he doesn't know, maybe he's ignorant, maybe he's a new Muslim, maybe he doesn't know, nobody has told him. Did you ever heard something like this? Ibn Abbas said, oh, this is your first time. This is your first time, isn't it? So that's why. Maybe others are as well. This is their first time. They didn't know that it's important in Islam to come to Salat al-Jama'ah. So that's why if we tell people to come to Salat al-Jama'ah, we tell them nicely and remind them with those ahadith and ayats that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned to us. And as well as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us those ayats and ahadith.